I'm Elijah Montgomery with iO-HVAC Controls. I'm here today to talk to you about our new iO-WR-XR extended range wireless relay, how to wire it up, set it up in the field. So here we have our standard air conditioning setup. You have your thermostat, 5 wires to your indoor unit air handler or furnace, and then 2 wires, a Y and a common, running outdoors to your outdoor condensing unit to energize your contactor. So if our thermostat calls for cooling, if all is well, it will send the Y signal to the indoor unit, energize your contactor, and bring on your outdoor condensing unit. In some cases, you may either need to upgrade this wire, either because you're upgrading from an air conditioner to a heat pump, or you may have an issue where this wire becomes broken, either from a mouse or rodent, or from just a buried cable experiencing wear over time. When that happens, obviously, your unit will not be able to run, and you need to do something about it. The standard way to do it is to replace that wire. In some cases, that may be very difficult or even impossible. So our wireless relays can help with that. So here's how you wire that up. First, we're going to take this wire out of the way because we don't need that anymore. Then we're going to bring in our 2 iO-WR-XR extended range wireless relay modules, one for indoors and one for the outdoor unit. Now, these units are very versatile. If you've installed our standard range wireless relay, these are going to install very similarly, but there are some key differences. The main one being that the inputs and the outputs on these units are both dry contacts. They do not take a voltage input and they do not send a voltage output. So we have to handle that for them. So for the input, for each input, you're going to need a relay. A single pole, single throw, or single pole, double throw, like our RY1s, will do the trick, or any other kind of relay like that. So we're going to use this to get our input signal into our indoor unit. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to need to get power, 24 volts, to this unit. And before I do anything else, I'm going to shut the power off to this whole system so I don't get any sparks going here. So I'm going to take 24 volts from my indoor unit here, from my indoor unit transformer. I'm going to wire that into my red terminals here. This is my power input. Now the terminals on these units are removable to aid in installation, so you can wire it up outside of the box, or if you need to turn it and point it facing down or up, whichever is more convenient for you, you can certainly do that. My 24 volt power is wired up. Now I need to bring my call for cooling from my thermostat or my indoor unit to my relay. So this is going to be the same wiring that I would ordinarily send to my outdoor unit. So I'm going to need a Y and a common coming from here to energize my relay coil. And I'm going to bring my Y and my common into my coil side of my relay. So now when this relay energizes, I'm going to get a contact closure out of here, and I just need to connect that to my input on my wireless relay. So I'm going to use my common and normally open contacts coming out of this relay. And I'm going to provide that contact closure input into relay contact number 1. That's going to be on my yellow input terminals. So now my indoor wiring is all done. I have 24 volts coming from my indoor unit transformer, providing 24 volt power to my indoor wireless relay unit. I have a common and a Y coming from my indoor unit terminal, and you don't have to land it on the terminal board. It could just come from the thermostat. And that's providing 24 volts to my relay coil. When that energizes, It gives a contact closure out of my normally open and common contacts into my relay input contacts on my indoor wireless relay unit. So that's complete there. Now my outdoor unit wiring is going to be a little bit more complicated. So if I'm doing a system upgrade from an air conditioner to a heat pump and I have my 2 wires still intact, I could use those for my 24 volts AC if I needed to. If not, I may need to install a 24 volt transformer in my outdoor unit in order to power this wireless relay unit. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to install this, hook it up to my line voltage. Of course, being sure that my power is off before I do this. And obviously you're going to need to select a transformer that has an appropriate primary voltage to whatever voltage you have available to you in your condensing unit, whether that's 208 or 240 or what have you. Now from that transformer, I'm going to provide 24 volts AC input, again, into my red power terminals. I'm not going to tighten those down just yet. So I've got that power coming in here. So the wiring, as I said, on the outdoor unit's a little bit more complicated. The reason being we need a voltage output in order to energize our contactor, whereas these outputs are just dry contacts. In addition, I also have this black fault terminal that I want to utilize. The fault terminal is going to energize anytime there is a loss in signal for more than 90 seconds. This is going to be very important because if your system is running while there is a loss of communication, it won't receive a signal to stop running and could potentially run indefinitely. You don't want that to happen, so you want to use that fault relay. And in order to do that, I'm going to need a couple of jumpers to do that. So first, I'm going to need 24 volts AC to go through this black fault relay and provide 24 volts power so that my dry contact can output 24 volts. So I'm going to run that in with my 24 volt AC hot out of my red terminal there. And that's going to go into my common terminal of my black relay. That's my fault relay. Then from there, I'm going to use the normally closed contact because I only want this to break if there's a fault and that relay energizes. So I'm going to go from my normally closed contact of my fault relay into the common terminal for my blue output contact relay. All right, so there I have my jumpers installed. And then the last step is I just need 2 wires coming to my contactor to energize it when I get a signal. So those 2 wires are going to be my Y, my call for cooling, and a common, just like you would wire from your indoor unit. So I'm going to pick up my common over here at my power terminal block, if I can. And my other wire is going to go to my normally open contact coming out of relay number 1, my blue relay terminals. And then this 2 wire is going to go up to my contactor. All right, so to recap that wiring, I have my 24 volt transformer pulling power from the primary and the condensing unit, supplying 24 volts AC to my outdoor module, my wireless relay. The 24 volt AC hot is jumping from my red terminal over to the common of my fault terminals, my black terminals here. And then the normally closed contact of my fault terminal is jumping from there to the common contact of the relay outputs I'm using. If you're using 2 channels, both channels of these, then you'd want a jumper over to the common contact of the second one as well. That's going to provide the 24 volts AC available so that when my relay contact closes, I output that 24 volts AC for my call for cooling. That's going to come out on this this red wire right here that's connected to my normally open terminal on my relay 1 contact out of my blue terminals here. So when that goes out, it's going to send 24 volts AC to my contactor, energize it, and bring on the condensing unit. So now everything's wired up. I'm going to power the system back up. Now, these units come factory preset. They should be paired together when you receive them, but if they're not, or if you need to reset them, I'm going to go through pairing real quickly because it is very, very simple. On each of these units, there is a block of dip switches labeled 1 through 6. The only one we need to worry about is number 1. You're going to switch number 1 on both modules. And then once both of those are on, you're just going to press and release the pair button. And you can do that on either one. You're going to get a sequence of lights, a flashing status, and then you're going to get this slow blinking run LED. Once the 2 units are paired, all we have to do is test the system. We can just run our thermostat down, make it call for cooling. And we wirelessly transmit the call for cooling out to our outdoor condensing unit. And that is how you wire the iO-WR-XR.